processes and ways of doing. So I'm still catching up with some of those, and I'm sure that Janelle and Sharon and Claudia sometimes go, oh, what's that woman on about? Because we don't do it like that here. So it is learning. But what is great about the placements, and you know, our PX team have been working very, very hard to find placements for the many students that we've got, and still arriving and enrolling as we speak. So it's an ongoing challenge for us. So the more that we can have the supportive centres out there and form industry partnerships, then we're really thrilled about that. So we've done it different for GD204 in that students have an allocated number of placement days that they must complete over the course, and they need to negotiate how they will do that around their class time. So we are, the PX office are the ones organising and placing students, but then once the student knows where they're going and gets their acceptance form signed, it's up to them to negotiate with their mentor and the centre manager and whoever, you know, is part of that conversation about how they will complete their placement days over the course. And so you'll see here that the course that Alex is going to begin after Jane's introduction to belonging finishes has 23 days of placement. And so students, the face-to-face students are here on a Wednesday and a Friday. So essentially they've got Monday, Tuesday and Thursday to think about how they might manage getting their placement done over that time, that 23 days over that time. And then in the second semester, there's a 14-day and then a 23-day to make up the 60 days that they have to do. 10 of those must be with birth to 2-year-olds. And the other 53 to 5-year-olds. So that can be done at any time. They just must ensure that they have done those 10 days with the birth to 2-year-olds. So there's some negotiation. You know, in the past, and often traditionally, you know, there's a block placement where students go out for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks at a time or something. So this is different. This is a way of managing it and giving a different experience. I think that what it adds to is that if students are during the week doing some of their days in their centre, when they're coming into class and engaging in the conversations and the discussions, they've got quite a lot to draw on, particularly if they're new to the country and very new to early childhood. If they didn't have the opportunity to go into a centre fairly early on, a lot of it can mean, you know, they haven't got a context, and so this helps give them a context and then helps them make sense as they hear that theory and they have those discussions and think, oh yeah, I can see how, you know, that bit of belonging is happening in my centre, or I can think about how that might be practiced. So it is a nice model, and we're going to give it our best shot and negotiate the way in which we visit. We'll be doing some visits, as Jane said, around the mentor lecturers are going to have the same group, so hopefully that they will be able to visit their group and build that nice relationship, because we know that the relationship between the institution and then the sector is really helpful for students if it's positive and supported in both ways. So, you know, you're welcome to ask us questions. You're welcome to contact the PX team or myself if you've got questions about placement and how we're organising. We have the education placement website that when you have a student you can have the link to that, so that there's a lot of information. There's our PX handbook on that and other information and forms there too. So it's important that you feel like you're being well supported as mentors or centre managers or whoever may be organising or having that relationship with the student, and also that connection with us too. So we hope that, you know, we can forge these relationships and build on ones that we already have. So yeah, so that's the placements. And Jane had asked me, and this was way back, and I thought, oh yeah, that's fine. You always say that, don't you? Oh yeah, that'll be fine. And then you think, now why did I say that? But had thought that this would be an opportunity for me that I could talk a little bit about mentorship or aspects of mentoring, particularly in relationship to leadership and building leadership capacity, because that's something that I've been really interested in, that I've done a little bit of research on in my master's thesis and then a wee bit more into my PhD. But, you know, the whole relationship of the mentor-teacher in the centre is so vital, and there's so much research that talks about the impact that it has on students as they go into the centre. And often, you know, if it's a student going into a centre for the first time, and it's their first experience in an early childhood centre, they're hugely influenced by what goes on in that centre and by the mentor-teacher that they are paired with. And they might think that that is the total kind of experience and expectation and world of early childhood, is what they experience, because that's their only experience. And that's why, one, we like students to try and have different experiences through their qualifications, so that they see, oh, not everybody does it like that. But they are very open to, you know, realise, to thinking this is what happens here. And that has its positives and its negatives, as we know, because some things can be fabulous and some things can be not quite so fabulous. Looking at that definition there where it talks about the pairing of an inexperienced person with an experienced partner to guide or nurture his or her development. Now, in an ideal world for mentoring, we like to be able to pair according to, you know, personality and needs and stuff. That doesn't happen, of course, in a situation with students and mentor teachers. Mostly it's about which mentor teachers put up their hand to say they'll be a mentor teacher, and here's the student that lives nearby and can get to that centre. So, you know, there's some tensions there sometimes, and I think that that's why it takes extra skills for the mentor teacher to be able to accept anybody that they put up their hand to have as a student, and to welcome them and to share their knowledge and experience and expertise. So as I said, they have a significant influence on pre-service teachers, and I think, you know, that can never be reiterated enough. Thanks, Alex. So, just thinking about some reasons for becoming a mentor, lots of the research says that mentor teachers say, I want to give back to the profession. You know, I've been in this profession, and it's been a good profession for me. I've enjoyed my time. I love being a teacher, and I want to give back, and this is one way that I can give back. They want to influence practice. They want to see how, you know, that they can make a difference by influencing those who are coming and thinking about and learning to be teachers. To share and pass on their knowledge, and sometimes you'll find probably there's people in this room who've been mentor teachers for years, and they've got vast wealth of knowledge and experience to pass on, and that's really important that we see that happening. Many feel it's a professional responsibility. This is what you do. You look after and you mentor others. It's part of being a professional, and that's what I see as part of my duty. Some might do it just for remuneration, which I know isn't very much, but, you know, they might just do it for the money. I always think, oh, well, that's interesting. I think you must have some other reasons too, because the money ain't great. So, and just when we're thinking about what mentoring involves, and you might be thinking about the mentors in your centre or yourself as a mentor, and then in relation to what I'm just going to kind of wrap up in the next few minutes about the relationship with building leadership capacity, is that when you look at those attributes, so providing professional knowledge, demonstrating and modelling technical skills, you know, the mentor teacher is often being watched very closely by the student teacher. What do they do here? Particularly when children are having an altercation or something. How do they solve that? How do they help through? What do they do here? Or what do they do when that child's crying, or that child doesn't want to eat, or that child's, you know, feeling anxious or upset because mum, dad, grandma, whoever has left them, and they don't, you know, they're feeling uncomfortable. So the student is watching carefully, and so the mentor is a strong role model. And that has its tensions too, because of course nobody's perfect, and there will be some practices that are great, and maybe there will be some that you know, we think, probably could do that differently. But nevertheless, giving effective feedback, that's really important in terms of mentorship. The student wants to know how they're going, particularly if they're new in the place and this is their first opportunity. How am I going? I want to know, and I want you to give me some ideas for for tomorrow or next week when I'm here, because I was really struggling with this and this. So that giving of effective feedback is really important too. Articulating practice, talking about why we do what we do. And hopefully our students will be asking those questions a lot of mentors. So mentor teachers need to be saying, this is why we do it, this is, it's in the early years learning framework, or it's something that we've discussed and it's part of our philosophy, and it's got this rationale. That's also really important. And we will be encouraging, of course, our students to ask questions. Ask them why they do it like that if you weren't sure. Ask them about that, because then you'll know, and you'll know for next time, and you can think about it in your head and think, oh yeah, okay, I hadn't thought about that perspective before. And maybe it mightn't sit with you, and that's okay too. You can, the student can go, oh, I'm not sure about that. Is there another way to do it? Fine to be thinking about those things. Encouraging and supporting. Our students do want that encouragement and support. One that's really important is that having difficult and critical conversations, or sometimes courageous conversations too. It's that point where, oh my goodness, I've tried this with you and I've tried this with you. I'm really going to have to lay it on the line to say, oh, you're not cutting it here, or you need support here. And a lot of research around early childhood teachers in terms of their professionalism talks about, and I know that Anne Stonehouse talks about it too, that lots of early childhood teachers just want to be nice ladies, because lots of them are ladies, the majority of. And so we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to say, you're not actually cutting it, or you shouldn't be doing that, or I need to talk to you about this. We'll just hope that it'll go away, but it's really important. And it's really important from our perspective, because we want to know that our students are reaching competencies that we expect them to. And if all of a sudden we're not told about it, and then all of a sudden something happens, well, that's not helpful. And the student needs to have that support to know, well, I'm not cutting it here, but here are some goals, and here are some supports, and here I might do it. So I think that sometimes that's the hardest one to manage, but really important. And of course they've got to be observing and evaluating competencies of what they see the student doing, and helping build those collegial relationships so that the student is getting on with everybody in the team, and in terms of, just knowing that this is part of a team, and this is how it works in early childhood, and you've got to be part of the team, and you've got to figure out your differences, and you've got to talk about these things and all of that. So when you look at those, those are really good skills and attributes to be had. And if we thought that, our teachers had those, and many of them will, then they're really capable of stepping into leadership possibilities. Because when you're thinking about mentoring, it is a form of leadership. You are leading the student teacher. You're in a position where you're having some influence, and you've got possibilities to support and encourage. A lot of the teachers that I worked with and talked with in my research, when they took on mentoring roles, they felt that they were being in leadership roles, and they were really ready and wanting to take on other leadership opportunities too. And they were good at articulating their practice, and they were good at talking about why we should be doing things, or they were looking for ways, reading things, finding out information and bringing it to the team. So there's a lot of that. I think generally when people put up their hands to be mentors, there's some other things that they are really easy to foster, and say And so, you know, managers can say, well, okay, I can see that this teacher here is really showing some strong skills here in their mentoring. They actually could be doing it with some of the other members of the team and taking some leadership roles. They might be able to help us in some of our professional learning because they know how to find out about stuff and all sorts of things like that. So a lot of the skills are transferable and could be encouraged. But in order for that to happen, it needs support. They're only going to be effective in their role if they've got that support and resourcing from management. So from those of you who might be in that kind of position, you might, you know, think about it's the time and the resources. They need to have those professional learning opportunities. You know, what is there out there that can support their mentoring role, that can give them skills that they might need to have those difficult conversations. They need time for professional discussions. You know, it's really hard if the mentor teacher and the student teacher don't have time to really communicate and talk about what the mentor teacher's observed and have that two-way discussion and relationship. That's really important, and I think often that's the thing that seems to get left off the quickest. We know that it's really busy in a centre, and if somebody's sick one day and there's a reliever and things are just all a bit chaotic, I mean they're a bit chaotic most days because the young children are doing fabulous things, but if they're a bit you know, if it's all a bit extra, the thing that seems to get pushed aside is that meeting time for the mentor teacher and the student, but it is so important. So, you know, management being able to support that and say, yeah, okay, that time is really precious and that's what we're going to give you. So that you can have those conversations and to do the observing and assessing they need to do. Because, you know, in a big busy centre, it might be you get stuck inside and the students outside and you're trying to say, well, how are we going to manage this? And we need to talk about how we manage this so that I can actually see your practice and see what you're doing. Okay, so that's really important, and I just think to finish, to be thinking about, you know, that I think that any small effort to support mentors in their role and give them other leadership opportunities, then that's always appreciated by teachers when they're recognised for the skills that they're using and how can they be used in a different context maybe. How might management and leadership provide time and resourcing for mentor teachers? And how can management utilise those skills and attributes of mentor teachers to build that leadership capacity? Because it will only strengthen the team when those attributes in a teacher are strengthened and then used in a different capacity. So, you know, probably much of this is things that bubble away all the time for you anyway, that it's not desperately new, but it's always good at the beginning of the year to have a reminder about that really important relationship between the student and the mentor teacher and how that can best happen, so that it's a relationship for both. You know, lots of mentor teachers also say, I love having students because I get so much from them. They bring me new knowledge, they bring me new ideas from the institution, and they just fresh, and it reminds me, and I really love that too. So it can be a really rich reciprocal relationship, and I know that we probably have got many centres out there with mentor teachers who are doing such a great job in helping to influence and mentor our students. So thank you, and thank you for your support, and we look forward to working with you for the rest of the year. Thank you very much.